Welcome to the Titan Tar channel. Today, we have a topic to discuss about Germany proposing controversial peace and the softening of the commander-in-chief of Ukraine. Don't miss the chance to join us and share your opinions with us. Become a member of our channel and evolve your rank. Germany's foreign minister is drawing up a plan to peacefully resolve the conflict between Ukraine and Russia, according to an Italian newspaper. The plan, however, includes the possibility of Kyiv making territorial concessions as part of the negotiations. The central idea is to bring Russia to the table, but on the condition that Ukraine agrees to cede part of its territory, something that, according to the newspaper, is already being considered. This strategic move is seen as an attempt by the chancellor to establish himself as a peace leader and secure his historical legacy. At the same time, it would also be a way to maintain his political relevance amid the internal crisis he is facing. It is important to remember that, until now, the chancellor has not been a leading advocate of peaceful solutions, having supported sending military aid to Kyiv for an indefinite period. However, his new stance may be related to internal pressure in Germany, where he and his political allies have suffered significant electoral defeats in several states across the country. The decision to focus on the Ukrainian issue appears to be an attempt to turn his public image around and gain a political victory, especially considering his recent public statement that it is time to seriously discuss a diplomatic way out of the impasse in Ukraine. This change of position by the foreign minister coincides with growing frustration among the Ukrainian population with Zelensky's leadership, exacerbated by the failure of recent offensives, such as the unsuccessful attempt to invade the Kursk region of Russia. Popular discontent with Zelensky has been growing due to the high human cost of military operations, which have not resulted in significant victories. An American analyst suggests that if the offensive in the Kursk region turns out to be another failed operation, with territorial losses and a weakened army, this could lead to a collapse of his popularity. Dissatisfaction is also beginning to spread among the Ukrainian political elite, which sees Zelensky as responsible for the successive failures. There is even speculation that in the event of a military collapse, Zelensky may seek exile in the United States. Meanwhile, Russian forces continue to advance in Donbass, inflicting heavy losses on Ukrainian troops. A British newspaper reported that in an attempt to contain the Russian advance, the Ukrainian command is sending poorly trained soldiers to the front lines, which has resulted in devastating casualties. One example mentioned was the complete decimation of the Ukrainian 71st Brigade, formed by newly mobilized conscripts, which was virtually destroyed in just a few days of fighting. With manpower shortages and Russia's growing artillery superiority, Ukrainian troops have been retreating on several fronts, putting cities like Pokrovsk at imminent risk of encirclement. The battlefield situation is critical, with Ukrainians struggling to contain the Russian advance in the vicinity of Seledovo, Grodovka, and Novogrodovka. Russian troops also continue to advance towards Kurakovo, with assault forces expanding their control of the settlement of Gornyak. The intense fighting in the northeast of the city has been marked by the massive use of FPV drones, which have been instrumental in suppressing Ukrainian resistance. These engagements are crucial for territorial control, and if Ukrainian forces lose this area, a large contingent of the Ukrainian armed forces positioned west of Nevelskoye will be surrounded, worsening the already critical situation in Kyiv. The situation is so delicate that even the urgently transferred Ukrainian reserves have not been able to turn things around. Ukrainian media reports that the Russian advance on 4 different fronts has destabilized the Ukrainian command's control, making it difficult for Kyiv to maintain an effective defense. Western sources also mention the possibility of a cauldron forming along the Volchaya River southwest of Krasnogorovka, closing in on Ukrainian forces even before the battles for Pokrovsk begin. In the Pokrovsky sector, the tactical and operational situation is especially difficult for Ukrainian troops, with the Russian armed forces stepping up their offensive. Russian forces have merged the Pokrovsky and Kurakovsky fronts, expanding the radius of their offensive and creating more pressure on the Ukrainian army. This breakthrough exposed a tactical split created by the commander-in-chief of the armed forces of Ukraine, who was accused by a deputy of the Supreme Council of manipulating data to hide the defeats. He separated the Pokrovsk and Kurakovo fronts in reports, making it appear that the situation was under control in Pokrovsk, while the biggest defeats occurred in Kurikovo. This manipulation of data reflects an attempt to downplay the impact of Ukrainian losses and present a less dire picture to Zelensky. Ukrainian sources claim that the commander-in-chief is not informing the president about the true gravity of the situation on the front. As a result, Zelensky continues to believe that victory is possible, even as additional troop transfers to Donbass have failed to improve the situation. The situation in Donbass is becoming increasingly dangerous, with few viable options for stopping the Russian advance. Meanwhile, the Netherlands has given Ukraine complete freedom to use weapons on Russian territory, with no restrictions on the depth of the strikes. The Dutch defense minister confirmed that Ukraine can carry out strikes on Russian soil with Western-supplied weapons, including American-made F-16 fighter jets, as long as it is for self-defense. He called on other Western countries to follow the Netherlands' example by expanding the scope of Ukrainian operations against targets on Russian territory. This stance contrasts with the position of the United States, which has imposed limits on the use of long-range missiles in Russia, restricting them to the Kursk and Belgorod regions. However, if the U.S. changes its policy, it is likely that the U.K. and France will follow suit, paving the way for further escalation of the conflict. At the same time, the war has evolved in terms of strategy and methods. A Russian Special Forces commander said that the special military operation in Ukraine has completely transformed the tactics of warfare, making them unrecognizable compared to traditional methods. According to the commander, the armies involved in the conflict have quickly adapted to new forms of combat, and the Russian operation has become a laboratory for testing new warfare techniques. He said that today's military operations are fundamentally different from anything seen before, reflecting the profound impact that the war in Ukraine is having on global military doctrines. Conducting military operations with large armored formations has become increasingly impractical and obsolete. Accumulating heavy artillery and rocket launch systems in one location has proven not only ineffective, but also dangerous, experts say. The commander emphasizes that the strategy of concentrating a large amount of weapons at a specific point no longer provides significant advantages on the battlefield. In contrast, the general notes that special operations fronts have been predominantly influenced by the use of unmanned aerial vehicles. He believes that drones will be the main focus of the military in the future, given their increasing effectiveness and crucial role in modern operations. While the tactics and strategies of military operations are evolving rapidly, the Russian military has shown a remarkable ability to adapt and a high level of professionalism. They are operating effectively on several fronts, resulting in significant losses for the Ukrainian forces, both in terms of equipment and personnel. According to a British news agency, citing sources among U.S. lawmakers, the Biden administration recently sent a report to Congress detailing the United States strategy regarding the conflict in Ukraine. This report, which was supposed to be presented in June as a condition for the approval of multi-billion-dollar aid to Ukraine, has finally reached Congress after months of delay. A congressional aide, who spoke on condition of anonymity, said lawmakers had not yet had enough time to review the report in detail. After legislation passed in April that included $61 billion in aid for Ukraine, Congress had requested a detailed strategy by early June. The delay in delivering the report has raised concerns among some lawmakers, who have threatened to block new funding. In addition, Congress is expected to consider the White House's request to carry over the balance of previously allocated funds to Ukraine into the next fiscal year in late September. This request likely prompted the Biden administration to submit the report to Congress, seeking to ensure continued financial support and avoid future obstacles. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, like the video, and share it with your friends. Your interactions mean a lot to us and help us grow. See you next time.